Welcome to the Confident Marketing Leader podcast, where we empower you to make your mark as a strategic and impactful marketing leader. Each episode, join us as we bring in top industry experts to help you earn and keep your seat at the leadership table. All right. Well, Nemanja, I am so excited for today's conversation, basically bringing together all of the rising stars named by LinkedIn of the marketing world this year. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into the topic of B2B marketing, what's happening, and how B2B marketers are navigating just so much uncertainty and how they can continue to build confidence in their roles amidst sort of all these changes that are happening. So with that, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining. And if you wouldn't mind, maybe start by introducing yourself.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about all this stuff. That's what I like to do, and that's what I like to talk about. Me, I always say my background is in basically non-formal education and activism. When I learned that, we go with value first, then money will follow. Basically, I did a lot of stuff in there related to youth work, education, organizing huge summer camps, learn what I could, then got into the first agency, then the second one. Basically 13 months into the agency, I went from rookie to the GM, learned a lot of stuff. When I became the GM, then I needed to learn what is actually a process, how do I communicate one-on-one with the team, how to get the feedback, how to set up everything. Then went to specialize in email marketing, website personalization, email automation, pretty advanced stuff for 2017-18, at least here in this region. Me and the CEO together organized the first online summit related to the marketing automation at the time. And basically, I was always the guy who was leading towards brand, content, awareness, demand. And, the agency was more turned to automation. So it was automation works while you sleep, also performance marketing works while you sleep. But I learned that it works only until you have the budget. Then you need all these other things. So I moved to start Funky Marketing. Didn't know that I'm going to go into the B2B. I found out that there's a hole in the whole industry by having 9,000 connections on LinkedIn, talking with them, having, I think, 260, 70 virtual coffees in 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And basically, I saw the repeating pattern, and I say, okay, with what I know from B2C, I know that I can come in, help companies overcome that. Basically, proven my hypothesis with the first client. It was Impact Hub Belgrade, when I helped them basically set up the pre-acceleration program and getting startups into the program. So I worked with 200 startups a little more than a year. So proven that. And at the same time, I was communicating that, building Funky Marketing. We closed 47 clients a year and a half. And now it's 3 years and 2 months since starting the agency, when basically I scaled down from building the agency to more of a strategic consulting approach.
Okay.
And this is where I am now.
Wow. Well, that's an interesting and awesome journey. So I guess first thing, tell everybody, how does it feel to be named a LinkedIn rising star of the marketing world?
Yeah, definitely surprising, because when you look at those things, let me give you one, something that's happened pre to that. So in 2020, when I just said we closed a lot of clients, we were all over LinkedIn, not only me, but other people from the company. And these top voices lists, we were nowhere to be found on them. So we were kind of pissed. And so we came up with Funky Marketing top voices with our list to kind of get the people that we think should be on those lists. And now, like me being named as a rising star of marketing on LinkedIn, it feels strange. First of all, I'm not young. And the second is, it's good. It gave me a lot of insights of what happens when you are named something like that and you get a lot of attention on your profile and those kind of things, but also gave me the, kind of people use that as a reference when they recommend me to somebody else from the work perspective. But also I learned that only the followers that are never interacting with my content. That's another thing that I learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that as well. I think there's a lot of people that are lurkers. So I don't blame them. I worked in a corporate environment for a long time, and I just in corporate did not interact with a lot of other people's content because I didn't really want necessarily my employer to see all the stuff that I was agreeing with and looking at.
I think we are living in a kind of strange times when, we see people who are lurkers, right? And on the other hand, we see people from tech companies. At least here, people have this attitude towards people working in tech that they understand better the music, the culture, those kind of things. But now, since COVID pandemic and everybody become more active on LinkedIn, they saw like these people that they consider, a high standards people. They go ahead and they comment all kind of different things for the LGBT, for the different vulnerable groups, and those kind of things without any breaks from the company.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a whole huge mess that I'm looking at. I don't know what would be the next step. We'll see.
Yeah, we will. Okay, so let's talk about funky marketing a little bit because I love the brand and that you want to, get people to do things differently. What do you think is like a common myth or misconception happening with B2B marketing today? And what would you advise to help change that?
Yeah, I think basically that most of the companies, fortunately, still think that B2B buyers buy in the same way that they were buying, like, I wouldn't say 10 years ago, but 5 years ago, which is the same as it was 10 years ago. But they didn't see things that happen in between, which is the internet got more matured. And we are now spending more time interacting with our peers than actually doing the work. We have these small communities, a lot of different ones. You have one, I have one, a lot of other people have small communities. When we spend time, when we talk with our peers, when we have people that we trust, and also social becomes something which gives us the direct approach to our ICP, to the leaders in the industry, to somebody we trust, so they're more approachable and we can get to them more faster. And it changed the whole way, the way we buy into the B2B. And I think this is something that, basically coming from the B2C, that we need to create a relationship with those people to be able to be on top of mind when the time comes from them to buy. Because in B2B, we don't buy that often.
Yes. And do you work with CEOs or chief marketing officers? Who's your primary contact that you work with?
Basically, both of them. All depends. Like if I work as a fractional CMO, usually there's a CEO over there. If I work in a marketing sprint with companies, usually that's head of marketing or head of sales or founder if it's a smaller company. But then again, I have the LinkedIn Accelerator program when I work with every function that has anything to do with marketing and sales from the company, including the leaders, and mentorship where I have a lot of CEOs now that are involved. So basically I work with a whole different structure of people.
I love that. Well, then this will be a good question for you because I want to talk about, the elephant in the room, which is that only 32% of CEOs trust their CMO or head of marketing. And, having worked, this will be great from your perspective, having worked with both CEOs and heads of marketing. What are some ways that these marketing leaders can start to rebuild that trust and confidence between themselves and the rest of the C-suite?
That's interesting. And look, I think it comes to the point, at least that's in my case and what I'm hearing from them, how much do they trust you? And how much do they think that you actually know the things that you are hired to do? This is what you get from them as being lurkers, observing you, observing how do you communicate, what do you share, are you able to, to deliver results, those kind of things. And at least in my case, only after that, after they have enough proof and they know all of these things, they reach out to me. On the other hand, those that they are working with that, have people in-house, they're working on those positions, most of them don't know who to hire. Because in B2B, there are still not enough marketers that understand what marketing needs to do into the B2B. You know that there are more and more of them, but a lot of people come from B2C and they try to do it in a B2C way, right? And then it ends up only them, redesigning the website, doing the post for the social, those kind of things that are on the surface, and not getting to the stuff that actually moves the business into the way where it should go.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So anybody, I guess, coming from B2C to B2B, what do you advise that they, look at first versus just kind of coming in and trying to apply the same model?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I always say talk to the customers. Usually the company doesn't allow you to do it, to be honest, or they think, they will bother the clients or the customers by setting up the interviews with you, but you can get at least one. They will schedule at least one. So that's the starting point. Besides that, what I like to do is pick up the phone or reach out on LinkedIn to the customers. You know who the company is working with are, and go ahead and present yourself. You can go and present yourself as just invent the function if you don't have one yet, and try to get them to answer a couple of questions, which will give you the insights of, for example, if maybe they came to the company as referrals. So what you can ask them, how would you sell our product or our service to a similar company if they are in a phase that you were at the moment? Or what made you buy from us at that moment? What feature or what moment in the service that we are providing has gave you the most value? Just you get the most important things out of it. And then the thing that I always suggest to everybody is try to go, if they have the customer support, try to be the customer support for a month. If you're coming from B2C, because those are different people with different problems, talking about different things, and as close as you can get to the customers, you will get more insights and you will go faster towards understanding what's already happening out there. What I wouldn't suggest definitely is going over LinkedIn and looking at what people are writing, or going to Google and Googling what do I need to do in the first couple of months, because you will not find those answers.
Yeah, exactly. I found that as well. People jump straight to tactics, which could potentially be damaging, right, to your tenure as a head of marketing, depending on which way you go.
Yeah, I mean, some of those things can work in the short run, but then it all depends which side are you taking. As somebody's coming as, for example, as a first-time CMO, usually those are the people who have experience in hiring on one place, or they have experience with the brand or with performance. Not many of them have experience with all three. Usually if they know how to hire, okay, they will bring the person in that knows how to do their part of the job. But if not, they usually go, okay, I will do the brand side and I will get somebody to give me results right away with performance, or the other way around. But, if you are the first person hired as a marketing leader, and you still feel like you want to learn from somebody, then that's not a good position for you.
Yeah, you're not going to get that probably from your CEO.
You're tuning in to the Confident Marketing Leader podcast, where we share advice to build credibility and impact as a B2B marketer. You can also catch our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and the video version of this podcast on YouTube.
That's also another thing, because those most successful CEOs are the ones who were selling and doing marketing for their company, at least once, at least for the first company, but there are a lot of them that don't want to deal with marketing, or they don't want to even deal with sales. So they hire a person, you fill me that gap.
Yeah.
And that's hard when they don't know, when they have never tried to market their product or sell it. It's hard because they don't know what to actually tell you, what works, what doesn't.
Yeah. And I guess along those lines, what I found that they're confused about what marketing is and what the value of marketing and how fast marketing should be able to get results. So how do you balance, I guess, long-term focus for marketing versus short-term wins that the C-suite is looking for?
That's a hard position to be in. I always said, like, the marketer feels like they are crucified, because on one point there's a CEO, there's also investors usually if you talk about startups, and on the other hand it's you that, understands that long term this won't work if you only focus on performance and results right away. So it needs to go in a different position. I always say, I start with setting up how do we close the existing demand, seeing what's out there, how much of the demand is there, trying to close it. And then if it's not enough, then we start thinking, should we, damp the demand, create the demand, or do something else? For the tech companies and innovative companies that I'm working with, almost all the time they need to create enough demand because there isn't enough on the market. And for them to be able to do that, we need to actually get to know the customers, as we talked about before. And marketing is just reverse engineering. From the customers, we get how do they differentiate from others, and how can we implement that in a go-to-market strategy and actually show it to the customers that actually needs to see how we are different from them.
Yeah. And so I like that model of starting with closing existing demand. Do you find that that's usually a sales issue, that there's something broken in the sales process?
What I found out usually is that companies are all sales companies. And the only thing that they know is sales. So when they don't realize that they have a marketing problem. What we talk about marketing usually is function that helps sales. And that's okay. It can help them if it does a good job. It will align the sales and customer success and everybody else. But not if they only prepare materials for sales, or they're just doing digital sales and get the MQLs for the sales team, right? Because when you look at it like that, you need to go and explain what's actually happening. You cannot explain it if you don't understand from the customer's perspective. But when we go and we actually try to close the existing demand, it's pure sales, because those are the people who are already with intent, coming to Google, so on the market to buy. And inside that, we have, advertising. So we have SEO, we have even community on that part, existing communities, which is we go to the community, obviously, to talk about our product or the service. We don't go out there to just, make friends. So we already have the intent. And these are all the ways, this is just three. There are many other ways how we can actually go and close the existing demand. And what I like that is it's easy for sales to do it, because those people already have the intent. And they go, sure, they will need to add an extra few steps, because, this is where we are competing with everybody for the small piece of cake. And that's why it can work short term. And this piece, the level of pipeline that is coming through the closing demand channels will only grow in time as we start damming the existing demand, or maybe creating the new demand, right? So what I like to do, and why do we actually go and create demand? So we can make it easy for the salespeople. Why do I say that? Because if they have somebody who is already bought in, he knows the company, he knows the product, he knows that he needs that, he knows the people from the company that he trusts. He comes, says, I want to talk with sales. It's easy for the sales team to close that lead, because that person is already closed. It's not like even SQL, it's the customer already. And if they only talk with those people and don't waste time on trying to, on their own, to create the demand and close the demand coming from marketing, it's much easier for them to do their job and actually focus on outsourcing and outreach when they can do those things on their own, right? We get additional channel with the sales team who is more focused on that, because they don't need to go and talk to 1,000 people a month. Right.
And so what are ways, I guess, that marketers can start to make that shift and especially sell that approach internally?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because it's almost never happened, and the leader wants to do it right away, even though if you present the results, from similar companies, they don't want to do it. They don't want to see it on their own example. Not rare is the situation when we need to go and actually make results by using the old framework. Usually it's the lead gen model, where we will actually get the MQLs, but we will make sure that we measure the expenses, how it goes, how much of them are we closing, how much of them are staying with us long term, and actually use that to present to the leaders and actually say, okay, this is how it works. These are the results. These are the costs. Let's try something else additionally, and let's compare the two. And so they can then understand how it goes and how it works. But I think it's getting more and more easy to do it because of the whole buzz around demand gen. They actually go and they listen to that. And at the same time, it's becoming harder to explain because a lot of companies just replace lead gen with demand gen. If you go to the Google and try to find more things about demand gen, you only find things that are related to closing the demand.
Yeah, well, and I think there's I see kind of two things at play. One is just the patience that the company has to try something new and to do something. And then the other is just how well the engine, I guess, is set up to support something like this, because they don't really understand it. And then everybody has sort of their own definition. And to your point, Google is not the end all source here for helping people understand the difference.
Yeah, look, you need to go, and here I like the Refine Labs and Chris Walker's perspective. So to look at marketing as a product, right? Because it's basically the second thing besides the product that can get you to the most when it comes to the revenue, right? So, but to be able to do it, you cannot go all in on everything. You know, we're going to do podcasts, we're going to do advertising, lead gen campaign, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You got to know what's the priority. By talking to the customers, you get the priority. You said this is the hypothesis that we want to test. You go ahead, test it out. You set the time for testing, and this is what we aim to achieve. When we achieve that, we automate it, and we move to test another thing. But we set the deadline. So let's see what's happening. What are the initial signals? What is the time when we expect to start getting the pipeline? What is the amount of revenue that we want to get from that source? And what's the time frame for everything? When you have it look like that, it's much easier to explain it to the C-level, right? What you are doing, because they know, in a month, these are the things that we need to follow. And these are the things that we expect to happen. Are they happening or not? Okay, the second month, this is what we expect to happen. Is this happening or not? Okay, let's move on. So, because they have something that they need to look and something that they expect, because it's not unexpected. When we say usually about marketing is you cannot predict it. If you talk about the SEO, they say we might get results in 6 months or maybe not. That's not an easy thing to sell, and that's not how it works usually.
Well, that's a really good point, because everybody, wants to apply some science to marketing. And the reality is we can't control how people are going to react, right? There's the human psychology piece of this, which is completely up in the air. I just saw something that rolled out today, the old I Heart NY, if you're familiar with the old I Love New York logo, and they just replaced it with We Heart NY, and it is getting a lot of backlash. People don't want to embrace it. They don't love it. And so, even something like that, how much money did they spend on a new logo and pushing this new campaign out? And then to get this negative sentiment back from a whole bunch of people, could they have predicted that? I don't know.
Look, it's happening everywhere. I have an example that I was looking at last 6 months or something like that, because the huge telecommunications company was bought by another company, and they changed completely the color. So it was blue, and now is that bright yellow that makes you want to look away, right? And at first it was, oh my God, this is awful. I don't want to look at that. But now when I go to the street and I see that on top of the shop, basically it's the only thing that stands out in the whole street. But it took time for us to adjust and to look at the things. So you never know when you look at the things from that perspective. But what I wanted to say, and I forgot to say it earlier, I think it might be useful for the listeners. What I see in the B2B, especially service-based companies, is that they are taking this, a lot of them are taking this year to kind of set up the marketing function. A lot of them were growing through referrals and, or selling in their own country, but not outside. And now when they see the recession and all the things that are happening in the economy, it's unsafe for the sales. So, but they have the stable finances. So let's say, okay, we're now investing in marketing. We want to set up that function. We have a year to make it work, give it time. And then when the time comes for us to actually start selling again, then we'll have a much better chances to actually sell the things because they will know who we are.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. There was a quote, I think, that says, the best time to invest in marketing is when you don't need marketing.
Exactly.
You got to plan ahead.
And the best time to create demand is in recession, where demand is going down.
Okay, so a couple more questions. One is around how do you stay ahead of trends and changes? I mean, B2B marketing is changing so fast. AI, for example, ChatGPT rolled out earlier, and everybody is kind of swinging the pendulum that way. What's the balance, do you think, of the fundamentals versus trends, and how can marketers get that right?
Yeah, look, to tell you the truth, I think I'm going backwards. That's what I feel these days, because I talk about customer research like every second day. And this is something that, was probably the first thing that somebody should taught me when I got into the marketing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that basically affects everything that you do. But as you already mentioned, people like, especially marketers, like to go after the shiny things.
Yeah.
And go after the tools and Martech and all kind of things. But look, when it comes to AI and those kind of stuff, I always like to try new things, and that's okay. But I like to have them in a system that I already have established, and to see if they can help me, make it faster or make it better or have a better structure or something like that. Like, we are using Jasper for 2.5 years. I think already. And it's funny now, people, when it's free, ChatGPT, let's go. We're all using it, but Jasper, because it's the best option for business, because it already have established templates and everything else. And it has a structure, and it allows you to, if you have a great brief, to go in and be very efficient with writing great articles or whatever it is that you are doing out there. But that's how I see it. You cannot just use a tool and expect it to get your results, right? It's the thing that we mentioned. Try the hypothesis, set up the processes, automate it, and then add a tool on top of that to make it faster, more efficient, or, to just leave it to somebody else. You go and test other things out and scale from that. How do you see those things with AI and everything that's developing?
How do I?
How do you see all this new stuff?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's going to be requiring a different skill set, which is more critical thinking, because you only get back what you put in. If you give it a bad prompt, or if you ask the wrong question, then you could be leading yourself down a path that may or may not be right. And I think, going back to your point of customer research, kind of starting there, and if you know that and you can frame and provide context into the AI, then it can be a really, really valuable tool. And I'm exploring it from that angle of what are the skill sets required, for people to be able to use it efficiently, not just, oh, great, here's another productivity tool and I can get content written really fast. No, I think it could do so much more if you're thinking in that way, right? Thinking more big picture and strategic about how to use it to make better decisions.
Yeah, I totally agree. And basically it made us, for these 2.5 years, to create super in-depth briefs and to have, unique point of view for each segment of the article, and to know what we are getting from there. But, if you're really going into the bottom of the funnel things, for example, with your content, it's useless.
Yes.
Because you need to go to each tool, each product, each competitor, analyze those things, get the screenshots out, a lot of manual stuff. So it becomes useful for the top of the funnel things, when you want to create, maybe more awareness, something like that, or maybe, we need to go and ship out fast the content that, our competitors already have just to be there. And then we'll come up with the thought leadership or anything else. But basically it's obvious content. And I think it makes the differentiation something that a lot more companies, marketers, or thought leaders need to invest in to have like non-obvious content.
Yes. Yeah. I think, yeah, exactly. And I think that'll be interesting to see how this plays out, that it's the unique spin on it, right? The insights that how somebody's interpreting something differently. So, okay, final question. What advice would you give to someone who wants to become a strong B2B marketing leader? What skills, for example, or experiences do you think are the most important for them to focus on?
Okay, that's kind of interesting. From my perspective and from what I do, if they want to focus on the strategy of getting the big picture, those kind of things, besides customer research, we already mentioned that. I would advise them to try to learn from different things outside of B2B and to bring that perspective into the B2B. Even somebody who is just running the community for the LinkedIn page of a SaaS company and having a background in a restaurant industry can do a lot more different things because people in B2B don't see those things.
Yeah.
Right. So I would advise them to go and check out, the music industry, sports, everything else, and try to see what you can implement in that, because B2C moment is coming to the B2B. I mean, I learned a lot from Netflix and Airbnb and how they're approaching their customers halfway, not waiting for them to come to them, giving them personalized experience. All of them are, Netflix is selling series, movies, Airbnb is selling the accommodation, but they are not stopping there. So they are recommending you what you should watch next. Airbnb is saying, these are the things that you can do when you visit that place. These are the things that, happening at the time in that city. You can travel here. These are the costs. This is where you can have lunch, whatever it is. So that's the second thing. The third thing, I think, is get out of all the marketing groups and everybody else, figure out where you want to be and find 3 people that are already there or they are heading over there and, try to focus on them. First, of course, you will need to, to watch what they are doing, try to copy some of the things, but then that's how it's always happening when you're learning. But in time, you will be able to develop your own way of thinking and how you can come up there. Because like we are talking about strategy perspective, usually strategies are the people that are seeing things that other people don't, and they're pissed off about it because other people don't see it, right? It's obvious. But then to be a really good strategist, you actually need to know how to make them see those things and act on it. So those are the things that you need to learn. That's why I say, focus on 3 people, even 1 is okay, but let's say 3 that is going to get you there, and try to get what you can from them. Be as close as possible. You don't need to have them as mentors, but these days people are on different podcasts, they're posting on social, they're responsive when you message them. So go ahead and try to get what you can.
Amazing. All right. Well, great advice. Nemanja, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, or if you have any resources that you think would be useful.
Yeah, basically funkymarketing.net or Funky Marketing or me or on any social, basically LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I mean, go to Twitter if you want to see me talk about basketball and curse in Serbian. That's how it happens. But, Funky Marketing Show, also the podcast, probably will be renamed soon, but it will remain on the same address. So try to find it. There's more than 100 episodes now. So a lot of insights and a lot of exciting guests, including you, so they can go and learn from somebody like you.
Awesome. Well, thank you and congratulations again for being named a LinkedIn Rising Star of the Marketing World. And I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, happy to do it. And, It's kind of interesting to be in that space with how many of us are?
10,
20?
10. It was 10 people.
10?
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice, even though, maybe we are not young or rising or whatever it is, but be one of 10 people, that's actually exciting.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Confident Marketing Leader. I hope that you gained new insights to help you keep your seat at the leadership table. You can reach me anytime through LinkedIn and at shakemktg.com. Links are in my bio. And if you find this content interesting, or if you know another marketing leader who needs to know about it, please share it so we can help build up our credibility and make a bigger impact as a B2B marketing community. Looking forward to being with you again next time.